by law. Section 100. Fundamental Principles and Conceptual Framework.
Section 110. Integrity.
I will explain about Section 110, Integrity. Integrity means being honest and straightforward in all business and professional relationship.
What about Section 120?
Okay students, class is dismissed.
Section 120. Objectivity. Hi Jeremy.
What is Section 120?
Hi. Section 120 is objectivity. It means there is not supposed to be bias, conflict of interest or undue influence that will affect judgment.
Wow, thank you Jeremy.
It's a pleasure.
Section 130, Professional Competence and Due Care.
Professional competence.
Can you explain to me what is professional competence?
Professional competence is: members should have formal education in accounting, adequate practical experiences and continued professional education through continuing professional education, CPE. Next, CPE is important due to the rapid changes and expansion in knowledge that is required for accountants to discharge their professional obligations effectively and responsibly. CPE program comprises structured and unstructured learning. Structured CPE learning may be obtained through courses, conferences, seminars or from postgraduate studies. Unstructured CPE learning include private study and technical research for practical.
What about due care? Can you tell me what it is?
I would be happy to explain it to you. Member is a professional responsible in fulfilling their duties diligently and carefully. Example: consideration of the completeness of the working papers, the sufficiency of audit evidence and the appropriateness of the audit reports.
Section 140. Confidentiality.
Tell me, what do you know about confidentiality of fundamental principles under MIA by law?
An auditor should not disclose any information to the third party without proper and specific authority. Next, an auditor should keep the confidentiality even after the end of relationship between an auditor and client or employer.
Section 150.1, Professional Behavior.
Father, can you explain to me the principle of professional behavior?
It requires the auditor to comply with relevant laws and should also perform the job to maintain good name of the Institute, MIA, as well as other members. Auditors should avoid from acting in a manner that would discredit the profession. Also, they should inform all the circumstances to the clients.
Section 150.2 Advertising, Marketing and Promotions.
An auditor shall be honest and truthful and shall not make exaggerated claims for the services they are able to offer.
An auditor shall not bring the profession into disrepute and shall ensure that such advertisement, marketing or promotional material is professionally dignified and carried out in accordance with the relevant legislation.
Hello everyone, it's me Jeremy. Now I will be explaining to you about Section 180 Threats and Safeguards. Threats may be created by a broad range of relationships and circumstances. When a relationship or circumstances create a threat, it will affect the professional accountant's compliance with his fundamental principle. Threat can be categorized into 5 categories, which is self-interest threat, self-review threat, advocacy threat, familiarity threat and intimidation threat. Self-interest rate is a threat that a financial or other interest will influence the accountant judgment and behavior. Meanwhile, a self-review threat is a threat that professional accountant will not appropriate evaluate the results of previous judgment by other professional accountant, individual, organization etc. As for advocacy threat, it is a threat that a professional accountant will promote a client's or employer position to the point that a professional accountant objectivity is compromised. Next, familiarity threat is a threat due to a close relationship with client or employer. The professional accountants will be too sympathetic to their interest. Lastly is intimidation threat. Intimidation threat is a threat that a professional accountants will not acting objectively because of actual or perceived pressure. That's all about it for threats. Now I will proceed in explaining what is safeguards. Safeguards is an action or other measures that may eliminate threats or reduce them to an acceptable level. There are two categories of safeguard, which is the safeguard that created by the profession, legislation and regulation. And next is safeguard that are in the work environment. Safeguard created by the profession, legislation and regulation is educational, training and experience for entry into the profession. Secondly is the continuing professional development requirements and governance regulators. The other would be professional standards, professional or regulatory monitoring and disciplinary procedure, external view by a legally empowered third party of the reports.
Next is safeguard in working environment. In safeguard in the work environment, to counter the threat, an organization have prepared a continuing professional development requirements into their organization. The organization also employing organizations' ethic and conduct program, and also make the recruitment procedures emphasizing the importance of high caliber competent staff. The organization will have a strong internal controls, disciplinary process and timely communication of the organization policies and procedures to control the threats.
Let's look into section 290, independence. Independence is an attitude of mind characterized by integrity and objective approach to audit work, independence in auditing. It also means taking an unbiased viewpoint in the performance of the audit tests, the evaluation of the results and the issuance of the audit work. This section tells us the two requirements for engagement, which is audit engagement and review engagement. The objective of independence is to assist firms and members of audit team to achieve and maintain independence of the company.
Independence comprises of independence of mind, which is professional accountants shall express his or her conclusion without being affected by any influence.
Meanwhile, independence of appearance is third party would likely to conclude weighing the firm's or audit members' integrity, objectivity and professional skepticism. Here are the example of potential threats that can impair and compromise auditor independence. The first one is borrowing loans or guarantees more than $25,000. Next is holding official position in client organization. Have financial interest in client companies such as shares and high audit fees. This threat can impair the independence of an accountant. That's all about it for section 100.8 threats and safeguard and section 290 independence.
How do you think an auditor charge for their services?
Fee charged for all engagement should be a fair reflection on the value of work performed for the client and should take into account, among others are: firstly, the skill and knowledge required for the type of work involved. Secondly, the level of training and experience of the persons involved. Thirdly, the time necessarily spent by each person engaged on the work.
Lastly, the degree of responsibility and urgency that the work entails.
What is a self-interest threat?
It is a close personal relationship between an auditor and a client that can cause problem to the member's objectivity.
What is the factor that may create self-interest threat?
A large portion of the audit firm's total earning from one client. The audit firm's financial heavily dependence on that client may create self-interest threat.
I am working for this big company. I should charge them large amount of money for my service.
Too overdue fee of an audit client. Long overdue for significant amount of audit fee may also give rise to self-interest threat. Generally, the payment of such fees should be required before the report is issued or before starts the new engagement.
I should charge company A an extra fee as a fine for paying late. Woohoo, more money for me.
3. Pricing undercharge. The auditor need to consider whether the lower fee able to ensure him to comply with fundamental principles. The auditor may not be able to perform the audit in accordance to applicable technical and professional standards for the lower fee.
Can you give me low price for your service, as our company are still new?
Sure. I can finish it in 2 days' time.
4. Contingent fee. Fee should not be charged on a contingent basis for audit engagements but can be used for certain types of non-audit engagements. Hence, the auditor must have clear understanding with the client on the scope and fee of the audit engagement.
Can you change the tax return for my company? I promise I will give you extra for that.
Sure.
5. Referral fee or commission. The auditor should not receive or pay a referral fee or commission, create self-interest, unless he or she established safeguards to eliminate or reduce them to an acceptable level by disclosing to the client the fact of receive and pay a referral fee or commission, obtaining advance agreement from the client.
I heard that your uncle owned a company. If you promote my service and he accepts it, I will give you commission as a return. Don't let anyone know about this.
What is referral? If the member receives an assignment through referral from another member, the member should not undertake any other professional services for the same client without informing the referring member. If the member receives an assignment through referral from another member, the member should not undertake any other professional services for the same client without informing the referring member. He should not do anything to impair the position of the referring members in continuing to provide his service to client in order to retain cordial relationship among the professional members.
What is International Standard on Auditing?
International Standard on Auditing, ISA, deals with the auditor's responsibility to apply the concept of materiality in planning and performing an audit of financial statements.
International Standard on Auditing deals with the auditor's responsibility to apply the concept of materiality in planning and performing an audit of financial statements. Lastly is Malaysian Approved Standards on Auditing. This standards is mandatory for all members who assume responsibilities as independent auditors to observe and respect of the conduct of their audit under all reporting frameworks.